Hey, everybody. Today I'd like to talk about something I call burning your ships. There was a man, a Spanish guy named Hernan Cortez, who was a conquistador, and this story has been told several times in different ways in different cultures. But essentially, he got off the ship with his men, all his ships, to go on a conquest of land and met a larger army. And in order to make his men one minded, when they got off the ships, he burned them all. So there was no way to retreat. He had a smaller army, and the men were afraid. But once he burned all the ships and said, "There is no retreat, only forward. You win or you die," it galvanized the men into a one pointed approach, and they won. But had they given them the escape hatch to jump back on the ships, they always had a way out, and that did not give them the fortitude they needed to conquer that land. So I want to talk about that in terms of awakening, of how going back into the mind will allow you to not look at what you need to look at. The ships in this case that you're burning will be your beliefs. Beliefs about the path, beliefs about someday in the future I will have it. All thoughts, thought loops. Reality is right here all the time. Retreating into distraction, beliefs, hopes, future thinking, past thinking, all is a diversion from what's happening right here. And I know it's not easy, but there comes a point when you're on this supposed path that you have to draw a line in the sand with your mind. When I was a kid, I was a big time rebel, and I was a rebel my whole life. And at one point, it was really bad for me. A lot of depression, sadness, anger, all that good stuff. And I was always trying to solve this with my mind on the awakening path. And I would rebel against religions and all my religion and even spirituality, institution, any kind of authority. But what I didn't realize was my mind was the ultimate rebellion that I should have been against. The total acceptance of that voice in my head and beliefs about the world and about people, places, things that I had inherited from my parents and from my environment had to be looked at. And for many years, I continuously would go into the mind to try to solve this problem. One day I'll be awakened. One day I'll hit just the right book, read just the right words, hear things from something from just the right teacher, watch just the right video, and it'll unlock something. That's a thought, and going into a thought loop about the future, about the path. And that's one of my escape hatches, one of my ships that I can get on and go back the other direction. But what I noticed about all that is eventually trying to solve this logically, I noticed that I just kept going back into my thought loops, back into thought loops, trying to solve the unsolvable with the mind. And Albert Einstein said, a problem cannot be solved at the level that it was created. So you cannot approach awakening from trying to solve it within the mind, within the thought loops. Because that's exactly what the algorithm is made for. It's made to keep trying to solve problems in the relative. But awakening and enlightenment is not a problem that gets solved in your mind. It's solved with clear seeing of your beliefs, your belief structures, who gave them to you, what your mind's trying to tell you to do. So at some point on the path, you have to draw a line in the sand that says, I will not rely on my mind's answers anymore. I will look at those beliefs and I will not let them take me. And this isn't like an emotional vow, but what this is earnestness. And without earnestness, you're very likely going to stay in the mind the rest of your life. But with earnestness, and you drawing a line in the sand that says, no, I've been in the mind, I've been looking for these ideas, trying to solve this problem logically, and it has not worked. So you have to come to a point where you're going to burn your ships and you're only going to move forward, and you're not going to go be drawn into the mind. And this is why you're looking at your processes. Things will come up and then you'll look at them very clearly, whether you do that with inquiry or meditation or whatever. For me, most of this comes down to beliefs and frameworks about reality. And some of those beliefs are small beliefs, and some of them are very big assumptions, like I am a human being on planet Earth. And those assumptions are so obvious that we don't even think to look at them. We just assume that's correct and then move from that view into the world and try to solve it with that view. But that is an unsolvable way to go into the mind and try to do that. But when you start to employ the clear seeing, and you look right here in your experience, there's a slow unraveling of your beliefs if you can be patient and not judge yourself. And looking at your beliefs, when you start to get a foothold there, you can enter new baselines of looking. And it's really hard to talk about this part, but when you're looking at the suffering, at first it oscillates, where a thought loop will just instantly take you away. You'll be gone for however long and then come back and be like, where was I? Thought took me again, and maybe you had a reaction and you snap back to reality. But over time, generating awareness about your processes and beliefs and frameworks, there'll be a strange slowing down of time where you'll be able to see the thoughts and the beliefs more clearly than you did before. And as you're able to do that, you'll start catching your formulations quicker and quicker and staying right here with it. And pretty soon that oscillation oscillates so fast that it gets right to the moment of where a thought starts to form and starts to take you, and you catch it. And you stay right there with it. And when you are able to do that, you start to enter new baselines. And from there, when you have moments of clear seeing and beliefs fall away, you can't go back to the way you were before because you've seen too much. So you can't escape to your ships. The only way is forward. Your head's in the tiger's mouth, as they like to say in Zen. So I think a lot of people on the path, when they're having a lot of trouble and it's really, really going on for a long time and seeking, what they are doing is they are retreating back into the mind and letting the mind take over and take them back into thought loops. So there is a drawing in the line in the sand right there, and the burning your ships of your beliefs and your thoughts that says, I'm not going to allow that to happen anymore. And it will keep happening even after you've drawn a line in the sand. But the important part is the earnestness to look. If you're too worried about an identity of victimization or shoulds and shouldn'ts, and you want reality to be the way you want it to be, it's a very hard lesson, but that's not the way it works. And as long as it takes you to realize that, you may bang your head against the wall for years or for the rest of your life. So there has to be an earnest drawing a line where you say, I'm going to figure this out, but I'm not going to figure it out with my mind. I'm going to figure it out with clear seeing. I'm going to see my processes. I'm going to see my thoughts. I'm going to see my beliefs in action. And I'm going to catch them as early as I can through concentration practice, or generating awareness through inquiry during the day, however you choose to do it or not choose. But attention on your mind plus the earnestness of really wanting to look will activate that clear seeing. And when you get a feel for that, things can fall apart very quickly in that way. But when I talk to people and work with them, they want to go back into their minds very fast. It's very fast. And they either, maybe they want to be a victim still, or maybe they just want to rely on spiritual concepts, even down to the point of one sentence, like, I am awareness. But what you are is before that, closer than that. Even a spiritual concept that comes down to I am, or I am awareness, or I am formless awareness. You can get fixated on that concept and never see what's before, what's prior to that reality that holds everything. So on this path, if you catch yourself going into thought loops and you've been on it for a long time, as someone who knows from experience, there comes a point where you cannot rely on logic anymore, and you cannot rely on concepts anymore. And you've had enough frustration and enough banging your head against the wall on the path that you have to stop seeking and start finding. And in my view, that is done with clear seeing. There is no doing here. There is no what's the next thing that I do? What's the next book, or what's the next course I can take or retreat I can go on? It's seeing. It is the earnest seeing of, I'm going to look at my processes and I'm going to look at them as much as I can all day, because the conditioning is deep and strong and it's not going to release. And you may think I'm talking about fighting it, but I'm not talking about fighting it. It's just seeing. It's ungrasping. It is seeing the processes as they happen and getting as close as that as you can. Time will slow down. When you get good at it, time will slow down. And if it slows down enough, in a true moment of clear seeing, you may jump out of time and have a realization.